Once again, we're here at Performance Medicine, this time at the new Johnson City offices, joined by Dr. Tom Rogers. You have a very special guest with us today. Introduce him to us.
I want to introduce Jeff Bingham. He is a longtime friend and investment advisor. We do a lot of seminars together talking about how your finances can impact your health. And he's just a wonderful friend. You know, he's also a patient. I have him here because I really want to tell people, or have him tell people, how your finances can impact your health, and also what hormone replacement has done for Jeff.
Well, let's start with the first part of that. Let's talk about how do finances and the financial situation that you're in affect your health?
Well, I think first thing you want to kind of think about, just from a pure money perspective, a recent study done by Fidelity suggests that a couple age 65 will spend $250,000 approximately in out-of-pocket health care expense during retirement. So just the money part of it alone is a huge impact, because most people don't even think about that or ever budget that into their retirement plan. And $250,000 is more than a significant sum of money. And the other part of it is that we talk about, and the biggest fear that retirees have is outliving their money. And we talk about that, and that's what most people expect us to talk about exclusively. But the other part of that really is, because we're designing lifestyles for people, is you don't want to run out of your health before you run out of your time on, in retirement as well. So what we've worked with our clients in conjunction with Dr. Rogers is with the proactive health planning, instead of being reactive and taking care of healthcare problems, is trying to do as much as you possibly can to increase the probability of not outliving your health and also not outliving your wealth, if you will. And that's what our whole practice in my firm is built around.
Now, do you find that the stress levels associated with financial situations tend to grow as you grow older, or is it more affecting the younger people?
Well, now I work with a mature audience,
right. But I'm just saying.
But I think it probably does increase the older you get, because again, the fear of, there's such a, kind of this mystique that goes around money and how it really works. And as an accumulator, when you're young and you're adding money to a 401k plan, you can see it grow and you can add to it, and the ups and downs of the market certainly have stress and impact to it. But when you're moving into retirement, you're not an accumulator anymore, you're in the distribution phase. And now you're taking money out of it on a regular basis, so the movements, especially the downward movements in markets, and we watch 24/7 coverage of it, and it can be really scary at times. I think it adds much more to the stress. And again, it's people worrying about, the biggest fear they have is running out of money before they run out of time. And I think people don't, a lot of the things, not only do you have that stress, but people don't really account for how long they're going to spend in retirement. I mean, the average, a couple retiring at 65, there's a 50% probability, or a little bit greater than that, that one will live beyond age 90. So you're talking about 25 plus years of time in retirement. And most people don't think about that or the impact that inflation is going to have. But again, as we're talking today, it is really, how do you maintain your health for as long as you can through that? Because we certainly see that people are living much longer, but the question that we have and talk to people about is, are we really living better? Is that quality of life in those the last decade or so is oftentimes just really, it's really poor, and it's very, very expensive. So the more we can do on the front end in working with performance medicine and diet and all the things that we can do from a health perspective can add to that quality of life, and also have less significance on an impact basis from a financial standpoint, not spending as much money on healthcare and being able to spend it doing fun stuff, if you will. The pictures that we create from our industry in retirement are, beach walks on the beach and, hiking in the mountains and playing golf and doing all these things. But the reality is that oftentimes what you're doing is you're sitting beside a loved one in a hospital bed that's hooked up to monitors and IVs to save or try to preserve their life, and that's not what we want to have happen. So we try to be as proactive as we can in letting people understand that.
And talking about that proactive approach, we're talking about hormone replacement with Mr. Bingham as well. Talk to us about that situation.
He put that very well, stress and age. We run an anti-aging practice, and certainly diet and hormones have a lot to do with that. Jeff's been a patient for years, and I think probably that hormone replacement and evaluation have helped him quite a bit.
Definitely.
He's a big believer in working out, and he's real chiseled and cut. If he took his shirt off, you'd be amazed at what you'd see at his age. But
I blush.
I've just been a big fan of him, and it's certainly helped him a whole lot.
And from your perspective, how's it helped you?
Well, Dr. Rogers put it very well, and I have known Tommy for a long time, and I am a bit of a fanatic, about working out. But I am also 56 years old, and I operate very much in what I would call this is a young man's world, if you will. And the energy and the stamina that it requires to do what I do from a business perspective, much less from a family perspective. I've got 3 kids. I run a wealth advisory practice. I mean, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to do that on a daily basis. And I try to start, I try to give everything I have to my clients and to my family. I could probably get better at both, as they would probably all tell you. But going through the process of doing this, and again, and getting older as I have, whatever edge that I can try to continue to have, and to continue to have the energy, and at least tell myself that I'm still young and can act young. I mean, we all age, and we want to age gracefully, but we don't have to just give up. And I think what I have found working with Tommy and going through this process, that it has helped me tremendously. I think my energy and stamina, I can't say that I have that of a 35-year-old, but I sure think I do. But it certainly has improved, my health, not just from being able to get in a weight room and work out, but again, on the daily grind of what we go through, and we all go through from that perspective of living life. Living life requires a lot of energy, stamina, and has a lot of stress associated with it. And anything that we can do to try to improve that at each increment right there, then I think it's worth taking a look at and seeing if you can do it.
All right, a very good success story here. Jeff Bingham, Dr. Tom Rogers, thank you for your time today. If you want to find out more about dealing with financial pressures and hormone replacement, the place to stop is right here at Performance Medicine. And check them out at performancemedicine.net.